and we're off straight through to the prologue. So for those that are maybe new to the game, prologue involves a lot of jumping, a couple of climbs, and even more jumping. Jumping saves a little bit of time over running, so they're going to be jumping as much as they possibly can here.
Or whatnot. Not really hard to get that.
So now thanks to that bird, we have unlocked the magical ability to dash, which will be used extensively throughout the run in order to move very, very fast.
Yep.
So now KVZ's screen you'll see starting off with dash jumps and a couple of hypers, both which are very fast forms of movement overall.
Oh, is my mic too low? Hold
on. So as they are moving through here, we'll see use most of the advanced techniques such as super dash jumps and hyper jumps, which I mentioned earlier. Hyper jumps are when you just simply diagonal down dash into the ground. If you jump out of it, it gives you a lot of speed. Also, we're going to see a lot of usage of wall bouncing, which is basically a hyper jump, just up instead. Gives you a bunch of extra height on your jump, and it's going to be useful to clear a lot of gaps. And KVZZ is really flying through this first level here. And Blueye is just not far behind him at all. So it seems it's a fairly even city. Blueye having some trouble there with that little wave dash off the platform.
Unfortunately, he just died on the next run.
Yeah, I forgot to mention. So the PBs of these two, KVZZ is currently at 36 flat and Blueye is around 39. So they have pretty close PBs, so this could really go either way, and it's going to be interesting seeing how it's going to develop throughout the race.
So it looks like first chapter is done by KVZ first.
Yeah, KVZ building up a little bit of a lead after some unfortunate deaths there by Blueye, but not more than like about 10-15 seconds maybe, which is incredibly easy to gain up over the course of this game.
Alright, so now we're in Old Site, and Old Site is essentially comes in with a couple of new mechanics, one of them being the dream blocks and battle, which we'll see later.
Yeah, so the dream blocks, you basically just infinitely dash through them until they're done. You can also dash in all 8 directions through them. And here comes our friend Battleline, which we're going to see a couple of times throughout the race. In this part, she's going to chase us and copy all the movement that the player does, but with a 3-second delay. Yeah, Dreamer, you might want to turn your mic up or move it closer to your mic, because it seems to be that you're a bit low to the stream.
That works.
Yeah, no, there are 2 of us. Hopefully Dreamer's mic will be better in just a second here. The room that KVZZ is in Western State is probably one of the most scary rooms of the first half. Very long room with just a lot of tight movement in the end to avoid the different battle lines coming after you.
You think that might be better?
Sounds a little bit better at least, but yeah. Ooh, Blueye with that unfortunate death getting stuck by that block. That's very unfortunate.
And KVZ is almost at the end here.
Moving fast through this wave section here.
Oh, I put my input volume pretty low. Alright, there we go.
Hopefully it's better. If it's still too low, please let us know and we'll do our best to fix this for you. So now we're moving into the resort on KVZZ screen here, which is the cycle-based chapter of this race. So we're gonna see a lot of dust bunnies moving all over the place, and probably some very, very tight cycles in order to get through this room as fast as possible.
Yeah, this place is like the death to everybody at one point or another.
It is probably one of the trickiest like single chapters to learn, apart from of course Summit. But KVZ is looking pretty good so far. Blueye seems to be having a bit of a trouble here. Maybe the race nerfs are getting to him a bit. Very unfortunate. Not the best old site he could have, but as I said, it's a pretty long race, so we'll have to just wait and see what happens, because he can just bring it back with some crazy comeback. We'll see in due time.
KVZ is moving very fast through this first part of the chapter.
Also, you're going to see him collecting a couple of keys, and these have one interesting mechanics we'll turn on later. But now he's coming into the huge mess section here, which is, of course, the one of the most annoying chapters probably to speedrun, just because of the amount of close quarters, very tight, narrow pathways, and just annoying movement throughout this first section. It does get better as we go through it, since we'll clean up the mess, but for the first part, it can be quite frustrating to try to move through.
Still pretty quiet.
Yeah, it seems like that.
Alright, I'm gonna turn it up almost max now. I think that's better.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Alright.
Hopefully. It's okay enough. So, Blueye, a little bit behind now after that old site, but still moving fairly quickly through this first section of Sort. Yeah, KVZ is absolutely flying through this mess so far, having no problem.
Oh, there was a little bit of trouble right there, just getting to places.
Ooh, and here's an unfortunate death there, but shouldn't be too bad.
I mean, who knows? Blueye might come out from underneath the...
Oh, KVZ having a lot of trouble with this room. Dies 3 times in it. Damn, that's very unfortunate. Gives Blueye a bit to catch up. Doing fairly well so far for this chapter, if I am not mistaken. So nothing is over until we reach the top. Ooh, KVZ missing that cycle just a little bit. Has to go for the death cycle, which is kind of a lot slower in that room, especially. What we forgot to mention about the cycles is that there's an entry and a death cycle, and they vary a little bit depending on if you enter the room or if you die inside it. So sometimes dying can not only cost you the death, but also have you to wait for slower cycles. Except in a couple places the death cycles are actually faster, but the death cancels that out anyway. KVZ now done with the huge mess, moving into the elevator shaft for this lock switch section. What he did there in the start to gain that huge amount of speed is called an ultra dash, which is a hyper dash immediately followed by a downward diagonal dash. It allows for a huge amount of downward momentum. It can also be used to chain together, but it can be incredibly hard and usually not seen as RTA viable, except in a couple of places that we might see later on by KVZ. Ooh, misses those chained hypers there. Gets it second try. So right there with the key, you saw KVZ retry, and this is because it's actually faster to just
retry.
Yeah, it's just faster to just retry instead of having to try to hyper back. So since the key stays with you through death, we choose to do that.
It's much faster as well.
So KVZ is now in the Oshiro fight section here.
Which can be a little frustrating towards the end because of all the rooms being so long.
Yeah, it can be frustrating throughout the entire thing. But especially the later room, especially the last room, gives playing players a lot of trouble. So we'll see how KVZ deals with it here. Blueye now finally finishing up, huge mess. Still behind KVZ, unfortunately. But hey, maybe he'll have an amazing rest of the game, and we might still see an upset happen. Nothing is impossible still.
Did we forget to talk about the refresh crystals?
We might have. Do you want to go ahead?
They just replenish a dash if you touch them while you're character.
Yeah, I also refresh your stamina, which we also haven't talked about, but basically when you climb things, you lose stamina until you land, or get a dash crystal. So KVZ just finishing up Resort with that looked to be a pretty solid time for Resort actually. There's a 5, is that a 5:59? Couldn't quite tell. It was a high 5, which is still a really good time for Resort. Blueye nailing those hypers there, which is really nice for him.
That was a 5:59, I think.
Alright, so now we're in Golden Ridge. Do you want to go ahead and explain some of the new mechanics here? Dreamer?
Yep.
Do you want to go ahead and explain some of the new mechanics in Golden Ridge?
Yeah. So there's the green bubbles, which they essentially just carry you a dash distance, and that's pretty much it. And wind, which can be an obstacle or a help, depending on which room you're in.
Or sometimes both, just because of how wind works.
And clouds, because they bounce you up.
Yes, you can use clouds like you see KVZ right now. If you extend a dash of them, you can actually gain a huge amount of height of your jump with the cloud, still get your dash and be able to get even higher.
We'll actually see that later in the run, where up right here, so essentially he just does a extended dash just over a cloud, so that way he gains a lot of height to get to skip one of the clouds.
So what we see there from KVZ is using the momentum from that arrow block together with an extended hyper gives him a huge amount of momentum, and he still clear that huge gap really quickly. It's very nice. Blueye now finishing up with Resort. Still not a bad time by any means. I think he pretty much tied with KVZ there, if I'm not mistaken. So he definitely still has a chance here.
Yeah. And now we're getting to a difficult part of Golden Ridge right here, where KVZ is actually... Oh, I am a little...
I think you might be. So, KVZ now coming up on the auto-scroller here. There's a couple of sort of auto-scrollers. We have to wait for air blocks. But still does it as quick as he possibly can. Now we're getting into the tough wind section, where the wind is just gonna... After a couple of screens here, we're gonna see the wind basically force him to almost stand still. You can only move at like a couple pixels per second with this wind. So we're gonna see a lot of use hypers and other dash techniques to still be able to clear this room quickly, because we can almost ignore the wind.
Alright.
And here comes also everyone's favorites, the snowballs.
Yep, the snowballs, if you contact with them, you die. So, yeah. Unless you hit the snowball with the top at the tops, then you regain a dash, just like you would land on a piece of ground.
KVZ still playing really well so far, having a fairly solid run it seems. Finishing off that Golden Ridge at 3:14. Blueye is still on pretty good pace, so we might see him get also a mid 3s or even low 3s if he's if he manages to nail these next few mechanics. So now we have KVZ moving into Mirror Temple, which has several new mechanics once again. First we're gonna see is blocks that move when you dash. So they move on their trajectory when the player dashes and then moves back after a little bit. There's also these red bubbles, which is basically an infinite dash until either you hit a wall or until you dash out of them yourself. So KVZ does a little skip there with a reverse extended hyper in order to get enough momentum there to clear the gap and then dash over all the spikes. There's a couple of really neat skips coming up fairly soon, so we'll be sure to touch upon them when we get there.
There's the big skip coming out in what? In Rivaling?
In Search.
Ah. Oh yeah, the red bubble.
Yeah, so right here we're gonna see him use a little hidden red ball under here in order to skip having to get a key for that door down there that you saw. This is actually very much intended for normal play as well, since it's used to gain a certain secret collectible. Don't want to say more than that, just in case I spoil someone.
Yep, I'm not gonna say.
Alright, so now we're gonna meet our very best friends, the Seekers, which is the second enemy of the game so far. First we're gonna play as them and we're gonna eat ourselves. It's definitely a cool metaphor for something, but I just don't know what.
Yeah, I prefer to say that they eat your soul, but I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah, that works too. And now we're gonna have to fight a bunch of these Seekers. It's gonna come up in the next couple of screens here on KVC's side. And so what these Seekers do is basically just their AI basically tracks where you are and then tries to go towards you and basically kill you. So we're gonna see both some very cool manipulation of the AI in order to get into, because they can actually unlock switches for us, which is a very neat mechanic. So we're probably gonna see KVC manipulate their AI a little bit to have to get less switches. Right there, you saw the Seeker unlock that switch on the bottom. Sorry.
Yep. Really far behind on the stream.
And also the Seekers, if you kill the Seeker, they explode after a while. The explosion actually won't kill you, but the explosion can also be used to get the switch, which you just saw on KVC's side there. And now we're coming into the Surge skip. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
So the search skip is essentially you skip having to look for two keys. I believe it's 2 keys.
Yeah, it is 2 keys.
And those 2 keys, essentially, you can skip them and you lose like 5 minutes off of your time.
I think it's about 3 or 4, depending on how fast you would be, but it's one of the most important skips to learn. It's also fairly easy. It's only doing a reverse extended dash jump. So it doesn't take long to learn. It's incredibly helpful, and we're going to see basically every runner probably go for that skip. So Blueye is also doing fairly well so far. I didn't, as far as I can tell. So he's not lost too much time since unfortunate all sight and a bit in chapter 3 as well.
I mean, it's predictable whether when you are going to lose time, especially if you know which parts you're not good at.
Yeah, of course. So we've got to mention KVC is now in the Theo section. We have to carry our friend Theo in this crystal ball throughout the stage. There's a lot of Seekers in our way, a lot of lock switches to open, and a lot of gates to open with the other switches. So we're gonna see some cool use of momentum here. So. What's annoying about Theo usually is that when you hold him you can't actually dash, but you can dash before you pick him up and then carry that dash momentum through onwards. He can be a little bit finicky control sometimes, just slip out of your grasp for seemingly no reason. Yeah. There are a couple of really cool shots you can do with him, so.
Using the momentum from one of those dash blocks is actually very helpful in that one room.
KVC now finishing up Mirror Temple with this I room. Ooh, throwing Theo the complete opposite direction. Has to go back there. It's a bit unfortunate. So this room just sends out pulses. You can dash through them to ignore their effects. It's a bit tight, but he managed to get through and knock the big eye out in the end. And Blue Eye's now in the unraveling section, doing fairly well so far, I believe. Doing that nice little ultra there to get through.
And now we're going to enter Reflection, which is all story. Essentially, it's just all story. And there's 3 main mechanics, or is it 2 main mechanics?
Good question. 3, I think. 3. Yes.
We have the Feather, which is you can move in any direction for a given amount of time.
Yeah, you can also cancel this early by dashing, which is used in a couple places. Right now on KVZ screen, you'll see the very famous Kevin blocks, named so after the wonderful person that does the sound to them. They just you can dash into the side of them, and they'll move as long as they can in that direction.
Yep.
And you'll see a little bit later that they can also give you a huge boost of momentum if used in some creative ways.
Absolutely.
And then the last mechanic are some bumpers that we will see fairly soon, which just send you in the direction opposite to where you hit them.
This is a very close run.
It is still fairly close, actually, yeah. It was a bit unfortunate there in the beginning for Blue. I had a lot of trouble, but he's keeping a good pace so far with KVZ after that.
Yep. And now KVZ is coming in very, very close to the battle and fight.
Yeah, we still have a bit way to go. We have a lot of these different rooms. So normally this room, or in all of these rooms, there's 2 paths you can go through. And of course, we're gonna choose the ones that are faster because we're speedrunning. So you're probably gonna see them both go for the exact same rooms here. Normally in these sort of in-between rooms, there are 1 top and 1 bottom path. So we're gonna see, we're probably just gonna see 1 half of them for this speedrun.
Most speedrunners use the top path because it's just far faster. But if you're very skilled at some of the bottom paths, you actually might be able to cut some time. You could, probably.
Yeah, it's not all of the top sections either, it's just, most of them happen to be top, but we just go for whichever ones are faster. Sometimes they're top, sometimes they're bottom. Ooh, a very unfortunate reset there in the last Seeker room for Blue Eye. That room is pretty long, so it can be quite punishing.
Yeah.
But gets through, and is now in the final room there.
Decides
KVZ is now going to meet the nice little grandma again, and then we're going to start seeing Badeline's hair again. There it is. So we're going to go ahead and chase down Badeline right now. And soon we're going to enter the actual fight with her. We're now finishing up that Mirror Temple about 3 minutes behind, which is still fairly good. I think there was about a 3-minute difference on their PBs. So if we manage to keep this up, it's still going to be a pretty cool race. And especially Reflection and Summit have both a lot of really long rooms that can be really punishing. So if KVZ mess up in the wrong places, this is Blue Eye can very much make a comeback.
Absolutely. This is probably one of the roughest sections you can probably go through.
So now on KVZ's stream, you're probably going to see a very cool use of the Kevin momentum there. Right there you see he just gets a huge amount of speed just blasting through that room with the momentum from that Kevin block. So now in this battling fight, we're basically just going to go through rooms as normal, but instead of just going from start to finish, we also have to hit Badeline a couple times along the way.
Yeah, which can be a little difficult depending on what room you're in, because sometimes the death cycles are just so hard to actually deal with.
Yeah, especially in later, we're going to see a couple more cycles, like in Chapter 3, with moving blocks, and they can be incredibly frustrating to have to deal with. Okay, Busy so far not seeming like he has any troubles, just getting up in Badeline's face and punching her as fast as he can.
Yep. Very nice hyper right there.
Blueye so far moving really quickly through this part of reflection, so it seems like it might actually have a really good reflection going on.
It's an interesting race, this one.
Absolutely.
Oh, unfortunate death at the end there.
So now KVC is getting into the final part of this fight, where she basically just goes Super Saiyan. She's going to start moving the ground around her, which starts sort of the cycle-based section. Blueye is still looking on fairly good pace for friction, so we could see him gain some ground here. KVC with that small death. There's going to be a couple rooms here where deaths are going to be really, really punishing, so I have to look out for KVC, see if he manages to get through fast enough.
Yeah, these deaths can be long. Hold on a second. I'll be back.
The Blau and Blue ice cream also got mentioned. There's some very tight gaps here. You can go through the spikes. This can be very rewarding, but also very punishing because you lose the checkpoints you would normally get there. But Blueye manages to clear those, having to skip on because he missed the little developer dash or developer ledge. But he still moves through it very quickly, and it's also about to enter the battle line fight now. Just as KVC is about to finish this. So now we level up and we get pink hair and a second dash. So what I forgot to mention earlier is when you dash, your hair color actually changes. So if you already have one pink, you have two, and blue, you have one or 0 dashes left. So now we're gonna get into Summit, which is gonna be the culmination of this epic journey, and it's gonna be a sort of recollection of all the different chapters we've gone through so far.
Summit can be extremely punishing if you don't practice it very well, especially the end part, because those checkpoints, because the wind goes up and down, and that's just unfortunate to deal with.
So we're starting off here in the reflection part, because in the story we actually fall down to the bottom of the mountain, which is what this is. And we start here before going into chapter 1, 2, so on and so forth. Ooh, that's an unfortunate death there by KVZ. He's gonna lose a bit of time. Yeah, this race is still incredibly close. I think
it's written in KVZ's favor, but I just see that death right there, and that's very punishing right there.
Yeah, another one of those fortunate deaths. So, yeah, as you said, I think KVZ does still have the edge, but it is Summit, and Summit can really be punishing if you don't do it well enough. So, if he gets a bit tilted, Blueye can still very, very likely take this, even as he gets that very unfortunate death on the little spikes there.
Yep. We're going to move on to the first 500 meters of the Chapter 7 Summit.
Yeah, it is the chapter 1 section. We're gonna see the return of the moving blocks, a couple more lock switches, and a lot more precise movement than in chapter 1, of course.
Because by now the developers thought, you guys know this.
And for the most part, they were right.
Yeah, you slowly get used to the game because the game design is top-notch.
I agree there. So Blueye about to enter the second part here of the battle and fight. A little bit behind KVZ's time here in reflection, but I think for him it's still an okay time for reflection actually. KVZ now in the little battle line boost section, which we also forgot to mention. So battle line is now our friend, and we are going to use her a lot to be able to skip towards the next sub chapter, if that makes sense.
Yep, it's
Blueye having a couple of reports like that through as well. So we're back with the dream blocks here. There's a lot of really cool sections here. I think for me this this part and also the 2500 meter parts are probably the coolest of the entire race, or the entire run. Because there's a lot of really nice strats you can do to skip a whole bunch of things.
Very nice door, very nice door room.
Blueye now in the final room of the Blueye95 2. I think he only lost about like 10 seconds throughout reflection, which is really, really good. He's definitely trying to keep pace here with KVZ.
I think it's just the jitters have worn away, so I think they're now both on full focus.
Yeah, I agree there.
And KVZ is now on chapter, or well, the first 1,500 meters.
Yeah, so this section is generally seen as one of the hardest of the entire speedrun. There's a lot of really tight cycles and a lot of fast strats that are very fast, but also can be incredibly punishing because of the long rooms and almost having to use the entry cycle in some of them. So you have to exit the room. For example, this room here, you can do double ultras like he does right there. This is only possible on the actual entry cycle. So if you die there, you have to exit the room and lose quite a lot of time doing that.
Wow, that ultra was amazing.
Yeah, the room is really cool to see when the runner knows the ultra sets.
I'm still like, what, 2 rooms behind?
Yeah, something like that.
Which isn't bad.
Should probably try to just restart the thing. So Blueye now in the 0 meter section. A couple minutes behind here. So it is looking like KVZ is going to take this. Blueye can still get a really, really good time here. If he gets...
If he's...
I think PvE might be really hard, but it's definitely not impossible.
Especially with the pace they're going at right now.
Yeah, some of it's looking really good. So now we're going to see an auto-scroll skip here from KVZ. We're just going to use momentum from the air block once again, get a lot of momentum on the hyper dash, and clear that huge block of spikes. And then a nice little wall bounce there on the end to get that done.
This Golden Ridge section isn't even that bad on Summit. It's semi-decent to deal with.
Most of the rooms are pretty fun. The auto-scroll skip can be pretty hard, especially for new players, but KVZ, of course, is fairly experienced with it, so he just gets right through it.
Yep.
And Blueye about to finish up the 500 meter section and move into chapter 2 here.
KVZ is blazing through this first...
yeah, it seems like he's having an incredibly good summit so far. I don't know what his standards are, but at least for me this would be an incredibly good summit. So this is an incredibly cool section, so hopefully he's going to do most of the skips. There are a couple of really known skips and a couple of less known skips. So right there he's going to do a little dash to be able to having skip waiting for that dash block. Getting momentum for that dash block to go really fast. Doing a double chain ultra just for speed. And there comes key skip. So normally here you would have to go down and get a red bubble up. But you can do a... Hopefully we'll see it. KVZ struggling with this key skip. It's a pretty precise skip where you can wall jump underneath those spikes. He's having a bit of trouble here, it seems, but there you go. So you can wall jump underneath those spikes and double dash up to get that key instead of having to go down. Blueye in the... we're just entering now the last room of 1,000 meters, so he's a bit behind. And it's going to be incredibly hard to catch up. KVZ doing a nice little skip here through these spikes, maybe? There you go. Gets right through the spikes. Let's see if he goes for door skip. He doesn't go for door skip. Okay.
Door skip is...
There's a skip here you can do, which is a very precise little trick called door skip. But it's kind of very precise and only saves about a second, so we're probably not going to see everyone to go for it.
Yeah, it's a very hard skip to go for, and it's essential. It's how many frames do you need in order to actually get door skip?
I think you have like about a somewhere between 3 and 5 pixels window. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's about right.
It sounds about right.
So now we're coming up on the 3,000 meter section here, where we're gonna have a countdown from 30 checkpoints all the way to number 1 and the last flag of the entire run.
Yeah. 3,000 meters is not too difficult if you know how to do some of these skips.
Yeah, so also now we're going to see the first instance of downdraft, where the wind is just going to push him down. So it's going to give a lot of higher gravity. It's going to make some of the platforming a bit awkward.
It's super annoying.
Well, sure, you can put it that way too. So far, KVZ is not even bothered by this downdraft and just blazing through these rooms like they're nothing. And Blueye is about to get on the 2,000 meter section.
I wonder if we'll go for any checkpoint skips.
There are a couple that are like almost that almost everyone goes for. Like this one is really fast. So if these checkpoints do count as checkpoints when you die as well. So if you skip them by mistake or on purpose, you will actually spawn at the last one you got, even if you are sort of ahead of it.
Yep. Right now it's updraft, I believe.
Yes, so it is. So now instead of lower gravity, you have higher gravity. Wow. Blueye having a bit of trouble with the snowball room here, unfortunately. Hopefully getting through it right now. Yeah, getting a nice little bounce from the snowball just for good measure. Coming up now in the final 10 checkpoints soon for KVZ here. So it's looking like this is after all going to be KVZ's race to take.
Looks like it. But who knows, there might be some unfortunate deaths, but...
This is probably also going to be a PB for KVZ, actually. He's on really good pace. If I'm not mistaken, his PB was like 36 flat?
36/high 35s.
Yeah. Well, the official one is 36 flat, so he's going to beat that by a lot here.
He's going to get a very good record. This is going to be a juicy PB for him.
Unless he's gotten some, unofficial PBs which we don't know about, but...
Yep.
Yeah, getting a... Looks like he's gonna get a sub 35 actually, so that's really, really solid time for KVZ here. As Blueye is about to finish the 2,000 section and move into the 2,500. And KVZ right there finishes the race and wins the race basically. So
GG,
very good job there for KVZ. That was a really, really clean run. I didn't really see that many big mistakes from him. So that was really nice to see.
Might also get his PB as well, so...
It's absolutely still a possibility. He's been... the summer has been looking fairly good so far, so... we will have to wait and see.
Absolutely.
So we'll see if KVZ wants to join us here for a little bit of an interview. Don't know if he has the actual Discord, but hopefully he does. Yeah, so also a really, really solid one. So now Blueye is in the 2,500 section. He has about 3 minutes to PB still, so 4 minutes even, so it's absolutely still doable, but it's gonna be a little bit close. Apparently KVZ had a 34.58, so it was still a PB by about 15 seconds. It's still a really, really good run from him.
Yep, that was definitely one of the better runs I've seen this week. Unfortunately, I couldn't see the TGH run yesterday, so...
Now, Blue is also in the 3000 meter section here. Still on fairly good pace, so we might see PB still. Which would be a really nice start of the day with a double PB here for us. Ooh, just really dying on that spike though.
Looks to be very, very good from Blueye right now. Unfortunately, he just nicked the spike again. Or, well, that's off of my stream. And Blueye reaches the first 14? Or no?
Yeah, just finished at the 13th there. Actually, no, reached the 14th, I'm mistaken. So about to finish here as well. It's gonna be really tight for him to PB, but it's still sort of doable, I think. He's doing fairly well in this 2000 so far. Gets to a Titan. So some of the rooms here, like I mentioned, are pretty long and have the hardest jumps at the very end. So these are also some of the most punishing rooms of the entire run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree here. Ooh, unfortunate death right there.
Gets there to flag 9 and skips flag 8, like most people do. Still has about 50 seconds to PB, so this is going to be a really, really close one for him. So we'll see how it goes in the last 6 checkpoints here.
These checkpoints can be some of the roughest, but they also can be some of the easiest depending on who you are. Looks like he's not going to PB, but he's going to get very close.
Yeah, still really good time. So also the times do matter still because the seeding is going to be based on average times in this tournament, for those that don't know. So even though he's not going to PB, he's still going to go for the best time he can possibly get, of course. Finish up in the second checkpoint. Actually, bunny hopped over the second checkpoint, so hopefully he won't regret that here in the end. But he does manage to get it. Gets on that last checkpoint now. Is only on the way to the flag.
And we'll see if Blueye can give us an interview.
And there we go, 39.35 there from Blueye. Still an incredibly solid run, especially since I believe his PB is 39.20. So just a couple seconds there of his PB. So that's a really good job from Blueye. So that was a really, really nice run, actually. Blueye having some trouble there, especially in the beginning, which led KVZ to get quite far ahead. But KVZ putting on a show for us and really playing incredibly well. That was really good to see. So, coming up in about 10 minutes, we have Louder 14 versus Duke Firebird over on Speed Gaming 4, I believe. So in a minute here, you're gonna want to hop over on there to catch the next race. And as I mentioned at the start here, we do have a bunch of races coming up for you. It's gonna be a long day of a lot of Celeste. About every hour until 10 p.m. EDT, we have races. So be sure to try to catch as many of them as you can. You don't want to miss this.
Yep.
You have any final words here?
No. So, have a good one, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check out the rest of the races. See you guys. Oh, never mind. It looks like we're gonna have a bit of a post-game interview anyway. My bad. So Blueye is gonna come and join us here. Hello, Blue Eye.
How's it going?
Could be better. Could be worse.
So it looked like you had a bit of a trouble in the start. Was it like this tournament jitters or?
You mean old side, right? Or...
Yeah, old side mostly.
I don't know. Old side is... I can do way better than that, I know it. So...
Yeah, I know you can as well. So that's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
But other than that, you did manage to keep up fairly well with KVC, only losing a couple minutes there, or like a couple seconds here and there. So, how do you feel like the rest of the race went for you?
Rest of the race went pretty good. Somehow golded resort with
nice.
a 59. So that's a milestone I was aiming for a while.
It's a really good time for
And I think I skipped flag too, so that's a thing.
Yeah, you did. You made me a bit nervous there. But luckily you didn't manage to miss it in the end. So am I right in your PB is 39.20, right?
No, actually in the first race I got a 38.45.
Ah, okay, so you've actually PB'd since the tournament started. My bad there.
Yeah.
Still, you got a sub for you, so that's a really good run. And this is your second race, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I got the high seats out of the way.
That's good then. So you might actually have some very easy matches ready to you, perhaps.
Perhaps.
It's gonna be good to see. Well, you have anything else you want to say?
Oh, I saw he got a PB, so congratulations on improving your time. And I'll see you in the next race, I guess.
Yeah. Very well run, so thank you for that. Now I believe we're ready to actually sign off, and I think we're gonna go over to Speed Gaming 4 for the next race. So be sure to hop over there to check that out. Thanks, Blue, for talking to us. Thanks for the entertaining race, and thank you everyone for watching for now. And we'll see you with more Celeste very soon.